Welcome to Global Morning.
Death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure. Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to.
Welcome to Global Morning.
Death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure. Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the access strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was alive. The president never gave me any deadline.
Good morning to you and welcome to Global Morning here on Global Television. My name is Godwin Sunday. Well, it's a good time for you to wake somebody, touch somebody and say, hey, thank God it's Wednesday. And of course, I'm not doing this alone, I'm doing this with him. My colleague and my boss this morning. Good morning, Uyi.
Good morning, Godwin. Well, I don't think it's a boss thing. Godwin has this combo of being a comedian and a broadcaster all combined in one. Life of the party kind of guy. Godwin, good to see you this
Yeah, it's so good to see you, Uyi. And you're looking bad.
Well, that compliment came at the right time, and I appreciate it.
It's a wet morning here in the Federal Capital Territory, and I don't know how it is in other part of the country, but it's a disturbing rain this morning. The rain came very heavy on us this morning.
Right.
One would have thought that yesterday, that when we saw the heavy sunshine yesterday, that there won't be rain this morning, but it came. But on the other hand, people will say that the rain came to also celebrate with Arsenal over their winnings against Madrid. So it's a two-way victory. But I don't know what your thoughts are on the rain.
Well, I don't feel very comfortable saying I'm not an Arsenal fan. But it is what it is now. It has to always be.
The jubilation yesterday was something else.
It was. I trust the Arsenal fans, at least the ones in my country, with all the energy that they bring to bear, especially when it's, well, that kind of opportunity to pepper the Blues.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to all Arsenal fans, because yesterday it was something else. If you see the excitement, it was natural.
Right.
Organic. It was organic. It just came out to just celebrate. And of course, if you are out there with any Arsenal fan, as at yesterday, they can even buy you anything you want, say pepper soup, whatever thing you request.
That's Godwin actually letting the cat out of the bag. How he spent his evening.
I'm not saying I spent my evening that way. I'm just saying it's an atmosphere of jubilation for Arsenal fans that yesterday. But talking about even it was a shocking game all through yesterday for football lovers out there. But then back to our country, quite a lot of interesting conversations even here in Nigeria. First, the Natasha issue has been kept aside because of the ruling by the
of course, by the court.
So no conversation on Natasha issue going on. But
no interviews.
No interviews for now. But then we know the Nigerian politicians will always find their way around this. And then again, I'm looking at what Reno Mokri is saying right now, and looking at all of those conversations. What they said, I've not seen the ministerial list though. That is part of the nominees for
the ambassadorial list.
Ambassadorial list, that's part of it. So I understand also that you have to submit yourself to the DSS offices across
in your own zone.
But in this particular case, I know Reno is not in the country; he's outside the country.
So is there going to be an outpost for him?
Well, I've just been thinking around it all through this morning. Will he have to submit himself to a DSS office outside the country? Or alternatively, will he submit himself to CIA or other Interpol?
Or a third option or possibility could be, is it going to be via Zoom?
Well, I didn't think about that.
Well, it is 2025.
I understand that the Zenzas will not even want to interview you by proxy.
It has to be in person.
You have to be in person because
Right.
they need to vet you if you're qualified for what you are going to be given. But then again, it has been an interesting one.
Right.
Talking about the Anambra elections, upcoming Anambra elections. It's good.
And the drama around the primaries.
The drama around the primaries. One would have thought at this point in time that the All Progressive Congress would have been able to come up with a formidable force that can
Against the incumbent.
yes, against the incumbent. But then again, we're not seeing all of that play out even as it stands right now. We'll see PDP and also other parties are trying to put their house in order. It's going to be an interesting run, if you ask me, for APGA, especially with the current state of the economy right now. Of course, people will say that Soludo have done quite a number of things for the state, but people of Anambra, I beg your pardon, people of Anambra, are dissatisfied? Well, the vote will tell.
Of course.
Yeah, most definitely.
Well, we'll look forward to all of that. Talking about Anambra, where we understand there will be election, gubernatorial election, that is, of course, Anambra State, for the benefit of our viewers, is one of the few states in Nigeria that observe off-cycle election, yes, for the gubernatorial polls. In November, there will be an election in that regard in that state. Governor Soludo's rating has seen both sides of the coin, as I say. Of course, as expected, on the one hand, you have those who say the man has done marvelously well, that the man has taken the state from point A to point B. The others who say, well, the man just allow our expectation to sag because we had him here in terms of what we expected he could do, given the background he brought into that role, but here he has left us. And then that is now raising questions as to the prospect of a second term for him. But that also has its own concern from a partisan standpoint. For instance, you mentioned the APC, the All Progressives Congress. Then, of course, you have the PDP on the ground. You have Labour Party. In the case of Labour Party, well, Julius Abure has said that it's going to be a test. For the Labour Party, that this election will be a test for the Labour Party. The conversation around Julius Abure is something we're going to KIV for maybe a different time, because he has his camp now in the Labour. Peter Obi and Governor Oti of Abia State have their own camp. Yesterday, we understand there had been a parallel NEC meeting called. That's a different issue altogether. Meanwhile, Labour Party is now threatening that it will of course, the faction that's loyal to Abure that is going to sanction Governor Oti and Peter Obi. Now, that said, Anambra is going to be a very dicey one. The game is going to be tight. People like, Valentine Ozigbo are not going to be a factor anymore, right? But it's going to be an APC Labour. On the one hand, PDP even takes a backseat here if you have followed the trajectory in the last few years, right? PDP takes a backseat, no emotions, right? So it's going to be APC, Labour on the one hand versus APGA. So it's a litmus test for not just the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA. It's also a trying time, politically speaking, for Professor Charles Soludo, the governor of the state.
Most definitely, it is. We'll get to see what the state independent elections are, also the plans, what plans they have for the elections. I understand that. We'll get to speak to us in the course of the day. Probably we'll get to know what the plan is. But then looking at this, the silence that have greeted the air on the Plateau massacre, it's sad. So one would have thought at this point in time that there will be a lot of conversations around the Plateau massacre. Of course, the president have come out to say that it will ensure that the perpetrators are brought to book. But this,
as is always the case,
it sounds like a normal rhetoric, like what a recurring, what do you call it, a rhetoric. There's a word I'm looking for right now.
Like a recurring decimal.
Yes, a common decimal and all of that. But then again, another angle to the story is, for the last couple of weeks, for 2 weeks now, we've had this from Uwani incident down to that of Plateau State. And we are expecting to hear from the spokesperson of the Nigerian police force telling us some of the activities that they are already putting in place to ensure that justice it's been served. But then again, well, instead of we getting all of this, the case seems silent right now. Nobody's talking about it. That of Plateau State. I was reading yesterday where the past governor of Plateau was lamenting bitterly on the social media space, and it's really sad. But this should call for a state of emergency, even insecurity in the country, because we don't know which state is going to be the next when it has to do with a lot of this massacre and what have you. Now, the interesting part about the trend is the death toll is no longer 5. It has gone beyond the number of 5, and all of this, it's not speaking well about Nigeria in international community, especially when you know that you're coming into the country and you can't guarantee your safety. On the other hand, again, looking at all of this security formation, one begins to ask why we have less than approximately 40,000 Nigerian police officers, and half of this number of Nigerian police force are allegedly assigned to various political holders. Let's not confirm that statement, but let's say allegedly. Can we withdraw some of those policemen and assign them to the people? Which is the primary concern.
Exactly, public good, right? But here's the real challenge with that. First of all, I'm not sure we have the numbers as to the numerical strength of the Nigeria police, right? The manpower, as they call it. But then there is the concern of police to citizen ratio. For example, how many policemen do you have guiding or protecting, as we know it? A certain number of citizens is very important. It's how it works everywhere in the world. I mean, it's part of the international best practice mix, right? Sometime in 2012, when we had former President Goodluck Jonathan in office, we're told the number was something in the neighborhood of 300,000. That was some 13 years ago. Now, more than a decade down the line, how well have we performed in that regard? We've seen batches of recruitments happen into the Nigeria Police Force. Of course, in between, we've also seen the face-off between the Police Service Commission and the leadership or management of the police itself. Always the IG at loggerheads with the PSC and all of that. But in all, have we recruited substantially between 2012 and 2025? That's number one. Number two is all of the directives that we hear about a new IG coming into office and saying, look, we are withdrawing all the guards, all the escorts, all the details to VIPs, whether they are politically exposed people, business moguls, expatriates, and what have you. Have we been able to streamline on that front? You see, most of the things we deploy the military for in this country, Godwin, I mean, is a no-brainer. They're supposed to be a situation where police are the first responders, so to say, right? But that hasn't been the case. You have protest, you bring soldiers. You have a communal clash, you bring soldiers. You want to fight insurgency and banditry, you bring soldiers. Then you want to guard regular Nigerians who probably are fortunate to have a lot of money, you bring in soldiers. So what then is the mandate of the Nigeria police? The irony of it all is we keep hearing that the Nigeria police is one of the best in the world, not in Africa, in the world. But how are we harnessing that advantage, if you ask me, that competitive edge, all right, to better provide improved policing for our people? So these are issues we must address. Incidentally, 2 days ago was the National Police Day. And Queen Agaba and I, we talked about that briefly yesterday while we're hosting Global Morning. The question is, has the quality of life of the policeman in this country become better the last 30 years? Let's even say the last 25 years. I mean, using this Fourth Republic, for example, as a benchmark. Has it become better? Because the fact of the matter is, the quality of policing we get cannot be better than, I mean, the quality of that of a policeman cannot be better than the quality of policing we get. It goes both ways. So if you want better policing, if you want a police force that is robust, vibrant, and functional, that delivers the goods, as they say, you've got to empower them, whether it's in the area of training and retraining, capacity building across spheres within the police force, or you want to talk about equipment, all right, kitting them, or you want to talk about issues around their remuneration. I mean, you can't have a police force where this is almost the middle of April, for example, and policeman is telling you, I have not received my salary for February, when an average SME is not even owing for March, for example. Do you understand what I'm saying? So these are institutional problems that must have reforms introduced to them as early as yesterday morning.
I like the way you put the word as early as yesterday morning, but we hope that we'll get past this someday, because as it stands right now, it's sad.
Right.
It's sad when you meet a policeman, even on the road. It's sometimes the appearance of the police officer. It's sad, and it really calls for concern. When you travel to a place like Cameroon and you come across Jadan, that's the Cameroon
police there.
You'll be proud to be a police officer. Now, travel the same route back to Nigeria. It's quite disheartening to know that we can only say that we are one of the best in the world when it comes to.
But does it reflect on the home front?
On the home front, that's just what it is. When looking at again the structures of the Nigerian police force, I've been wanting to ask that all of these structures put in place in the Federal Capital Territory, do we still have a replication of those structures in the Nigerian police force at state level? You get to a state like Ondo State, you travel far before you find one police station. Same thing happened to you when you get to Gombe and other parts of the country.
Right.
We don't have this structure of policing where the police is just 30 minutes away from you. Or let's have a structure where the police is just 10-15 minutes away from you. Police posts at different designated center, like what you have in the FCT. You put a call through to the police, a police post around you. In less than 15 minutes max, you get a police officer that will respond to you.
Right.
But you go far into other states across the country. Do we have the same structure that we have even in the Federal Capital Territory? And this is a question that is really begging for answer. Because if we have all of this been put in place, then the case of Uromi, before that lynching, we should have gotten at least a police officer on ground to be able to calm that situation. Arrest will be carried out and all of this conversation will be dealt with. Even before all of this incident happened, we would have gotten first-hand police presence. So I was even thinking about the Uromi's case. Was it that from the beginning of that rift till it ended, there was no police officer on ground?
Right.
So what's the distance between the police in terms of the police post and the communities that they are supposed to protect?
Right.
That's on one hand. Across the country, structural functionalism when it has to do with the police structures in the country. Do we have the structures? If we do, is it the functional structures that we've put in place to ensure that lives of Nigerians are protected out there? That's on one hand. Then when you travel far, even to a place like Bauchi, you get to places like let's take it down to Yola. The policing structure again doesn't seem to be a uniform structure where you say, okay, what is obtainable in the east is what you're going to find also in the far north. Can we have a system where we have a uniform police structure and we ensure that the police, when you put a call through to a police officer, you get all the police posts around you, get the presence of a police officer in where you just put that call, just like where you want to get community policing. When you get outside the shores of this country, literally police officers in most countries know you by your name.
Right.
You get to this company. So, when you're in Australia, you get to Queensland, and the police officer is saying, "Sorry, I don't know you. Who are you?"
Because there's an updated database.
Yes. You introduce yourself. Okay, no problem. They have your full database. But here we have the NIN, we have the driving license,
and the BVN.
We have the BVN,
PVC.
I understand that we're still going to have more again. But all of this comes
the money layer, right?
well, I don't know what to say. It's sad. It's sad. But just what even for me, it's not about even the policing structure. It's about the fact that the case of Plateau seem to be what is being swept under the carpet right now, and nobody wants to talk about it. It's gradually fading out. So we give it from now till probably give or take from now till Saturday. It will evaporate into thin air.
Right, and then we move on to other developments.
I hope this won't be the case, and we just hope that justice will be served, and it will be served hot in this particular case. But then again, let's even, before we go, looking at the comparison where Shiwari was trying to compare the protest, the approach of the Nigerian police to what happened in America, where of course, a peaceful protest was held in America. I know you've been following that update. I would, for one, I thought that the police would have been able to pour tear gas,
and disperse the
crowd. But we didn't see all of that happen. The police tend to be very welcoming and were friendly at that.
Are you sure you're ready for this conversation?
But let's just look at it from the other side of it.
Okay, so I'm also sure it's fair comparing our police with what you have in the US, all right? Police in the US is significantly decentralized. So you have the NYPD, for example, the New York Police Department, you have the LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department. So you have police departments across all 50 states, right? And you have the sheriff and so on and so forth. Right? At the top of all that, the superstructure is you have a system where once you're a public servant, whether at the state level or at the federal level, your loyalty is first to the American people, the American Constitution. Bring that to our dear country that God has blessed us with, that we're not even grateful enough for. You realize that your loyalty is first to the man who appointed you, and then next to the man who recommended you to the man who appointed you. And then you settle into your office and now ask yourself, should I even be loyal to these people? That's pretty much the attitude. There have been calls for, okay, the president should not have the latitude to appoint INEC chairman, to appoint the CJN and the Chief Justice of Nigeria, and blah, 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 blah. The anchor, the premise for that argument is that the man who pays the piper dictates the music. So if the president appoints the CJN and the chair of INEC, as naturally expected, they are going to first pledge loyalty and allegiance to him, which in any case is not a bad idea, because the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, right? But under circumstances where the interest of the commander-in-chief tends to be at loggerheads or at variance with the overall interest of the people, of citizens, what do? It puts this particular officer in a dilemma, in a place where you might say it's between the rock and the hard place, and we know it's the same thing essentially. So the idea of saying let's just oppose the American policing system and that of Nigeria, the difference is like night and day. I'll give an example again, right? So in the US, across several states, you see police wearing body cam, for example. So if a policeman were to accost you this morning on your way to the studio, whatever interaction happened between both of you from your house to the office, we can go back and play, right, and see what happens. What you said, what he said, we can have pictures, can have audio. I mean, nothing doctored, no AI elements, right? In Nigeria, it is your word versus my word. So somebody comes and says, policeman stopped me yesterday evening at about 4 p.m., checked my laptop, checked my bag, forced me, took me to an ATM terminal, and they beat me up until I was forced to cough out 150,000 naira, which I gave to them after they had taken me to an uncompleted building. The policemen in question come up and they put up their own argument. They tell their own side of the story. So it becomes the squads, as it were, or the police team's word versus or against the word of the person who is so accusing, right? But in other climes where you have technology, where you have more improved systems, you don't have that kind of thing. There was Take It Back protests 2 days ago. Of course, we saw canisters of tear gas flying everywhere. By the way, in the case of FCT in particular, the protesters were around the secretariat, I guess, and then just a stone's throw away at Eagle Square. The vice president was representing his principal, the president delivering a speech. Of course, the policemen would naturally be overzealous because they won't want you to embarrass the vice president, who at the time was not only attending an occasion that was very, very pivotal, but was there in the capacity of the representative of the number one man of the country. Now, what that means is that the everyday policeman in Nigeria does not see himself as the servant of the people. This is the elephant in the room, but somebody has to address it, right? He does not see himself as the servant of the people. He sees himself as somebody who needed a job 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. He got one. And he's trying to see how he can continue to keep that job so that by extension, he can keep body and soul together. Somebody said, the average policeman in Nigeria, I was watching that video on Instagram on Monday or so, he said, look, the average policeman in Nigeria is not essentially doing the police work from passion. He's doing it from a place of, I needed a job and I finally got one. It wasn't even the one I wanted, but at least it's better than not having at all. And then you sit here in the studio this morning and you ask yourself, if you have 2, 3, 4, 5 children, how many of them would you want to be a policeman as of today? And if you give them the open check, so to speak, to say choose career, giving this, and that options, given what they also know, how many of them would willingly say they want to join the police? Why? Because people have not seen the kind of police that is inspiring, that makes you want to aspire to not only just wear the uniform, but to happily and gladly serve your country. So we have not come to the conversation about service within the police. We are still struggling with whether or not the policeman's actions have been squarely aligned with what ideally should be the mandates of the Nigeria police. I mean, we can talk about this.
For once, I agree that we're not ready for this conversation. When you asked that question, if I had known it was going to be this deep, I would have...
Maybe we should share a drink about this.
Well, we'll go for a short break right now. When we come back, we'll be going straight to the newspaper review. Please stay with us.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Disbursing upkeep of 20,000 naira.
Know that you cannot talk about a healthy nation if you don't have means to produce your own in addition to importing.
The CG is the principal actor of this because it's within her jurisdiction. Minister is a supervisor.
We must run in accordance with the Constitution of CAN, where you have just a single time.
The human factor, you have the infrastructural factor, then you have the mechanical factors.
The Senate, with all due respect, they were so hasty in passing that judgment.
The statement I'm about to make is we're not even aware.
That is the future.
You have to be aware before you can begin to be prepared.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range are the latest news making rounds on Global Money.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Money.
Dispersing upkeep of 20,000 naira.
Know that you cannot talk about a healthy nation if you don't have means to produce your own in addition to importing.
The CG is the principal actor of this because it's within her jurisdiction. Minister is a supervisor.
We must run in accordance with the constitution of CAN, where you have just a single time.
The human factor, you have the infrastructural factor, then you have the mechanical factors.
The Senate, with all due respect, they were so hasty in passing that judgment.
The statement I'm about to make is we're not even aware.
That is the future.
You have to be aware before you can begin to be prepared.
All right, everyone, let's turn to the papers for you now so we can bring you big headlines this morning. We begin with the Punch newspaper. Well, there's an adjacent headline to the name mast with a picture of the Chief of Defense Staff as well as the Governor of Borno State, who now says that Borno is losing grounds. All right. Zulum says military failing to repel insurgents. DHQ fires back. Now, this fire back and forth will not cut it, so let's end it already. But the government made a very salient point that there's a whole lot of work to be done, more work to be done, because of the fact that, according to him, the state is losing grounds in terms of the fight against insurgency, which has been running for several years. All right, the Star headline says 11 PDP governors urge Supreme Court to halt Rivers emergency rule. There's one rider accompanying that headline. Governors finally file suit as president. NAS get 14 days to respond. That's pretty much all the headlines that we have from the Punch newspaper this morning. Next part of call will be the Nation newspaper, where just like the Punch, you also have a huge visible advertorial. But Godwin has those details for us.
All right, so the Nation newspaper here, we have just above the nameplate, we have our reforms initiative have improved PCC's fortune, says Chief Commissioner Abubakar. Well, Then it has, like you said, very big picture here of Afrexim Central, Afrexim Bank, African Trade Center Abuja is open for a business. You could go out there and get yourself a copy of the Nation's newspaper to know what the papers are saying this morning. Up next is the Daily Trust newspaper, of course, and we have that story.
All right, let's turn to the Daily Trust quickly, everyone. Just above beneath the nameplate, top left corner, bandits kill 2, abduct 60 in Zamfara attacks. Tinubu's appointments violate constitution. Undume said this during a live television interview 2 days ago, which the presidency has also now responded to. A Public Complaints Commission received 64,967 cases, resolved 15,077 in 5 months. Okay, sounds like a milestone. But the big headline tells us Borno losing grounds to terrorists. No other person is saying that than the chief executive of the state, Professor Babagana Zulum, the governor of Borno State. The writer says 3 LGAs under Boko Haram's control, Shehu of Borno. Quite sad, as well as a shame that you have 3 local governments under a group of insurgents. Shetina launches agro-processing industrial zone in Kaduna. Jakba, 16,000 doctors left Nigeria in 5 years. That's according to Minister. 16,000 doctors. Godwin, that's quite a number. Because even if you had 500,000 doctors and you take out 16,000, that's a chunk. Of course, we don't even have a quarter of that number of doctors, practicing doctors in Nigeria. So if you are dealing with a situation where the person of the Minister of Health comes out to say that 16,000 doctors left Nigeria in a period of half a decade, it means that we should be worried, we should be bothered, right?
Well, it's sad, if you ask me. The medical profession, I think it's lucrative outside the country. Perhaps we don't make it look lucrative here. Every now and then we hear strike and open strike. Now, like you've rightly said, that if we take out that number from that chunk from 1 million doctors, already that's a great big conversation on its own.
Right.
Now, looking at 5 years, in the space of 5 years, losing 16,000 doctors, when in most remote communities, even in Nigeria right now, we can't even boast that you can find qualified doctors in rural communities. I don't know why I keep emphasizing the rural communities. If you travel to the remote part of this country, you'll be sad. You see primary healthcare centers that they have to import medical doctors to come attend to up to primary health concerns, and they have to go back to the general hospitals. You don't have stationed doctors on our primary health center. I read what the president was saying, that he has approved 8,800 new primary healthcare centers across the country. The ones that we have, what have we done?
What's happening to them?
The doctors that we have in this country, what have we done to improve on their remunerations? The doctors that we have in the country, what are we doing to ensure that we improve their living standards as it stands right now? Now, it's sad to see the numbers keep rising, and this is just on the medical field alone, on the Jakba syndrome. We've not talked about the tech space, where a lot of Nigerians also on the tech space are also leaving the country.
And then the finance sector.
Yeah, the finance sector is not spared. They made their part of it also. How many of our colleagues have left the country in search of greener pastures?
Right.
Now, it's sad. I think this is probably like we always say that. Perhaps the government should begin to look for declare state of emergency in a lot of sectors right now, and it should start with the medical sector. Declare state of emergency on that sector and ensure that the medical practitioners are given attention, the required attention that they need, so that they won't leave the country. There was a policy, I think, by the previous administration, where they wanted to come up with this strategy of halting doctors that want to leave. You have to serve for certain years with housemanship and all of that. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it first, most of them didn't go to school on scholarship. The government did not subsidize their school fees. And you want to impose some of those things. And you hear the Minister of Education coming out, and although he has not been confirmed because it's still still proposing that education should be, NYSC should go for 2 years.
By way of staving off unemployment, right?
Yes, then we should now begin to look at the skill acquisition part of it, where you're not finished. The question that it keeps begging for answer is, what happens to incorporating entrepreneurship into our core studies? Introduce entrepreneurship from year one, not just a year 3 program.
All the way to final.
All the way to final. So, all the skill acquisition that one needs to acquire, you would have started acquiring those skills from year 1 till you get to your finals. Then when you get to your finals, you can have specialization or some form of funds that can be raised for you, and we use that to address
like a seed capital.
Then you partner with one of these banks to ensure that you don't give Nigerians cash, or you don't give this students or this graduates, you don't give them cash. You only finance the project, give them tools to ensure that you partner with banks to give them some form of grants, but strictly for the equipment. That they get equipment, and we start all of those unemployment issues can be solved. Even there was a program that I was even trying to look at one time. It's called the AgroBus project, where from primary school or from secondary school, you're from GS1, you can introduce an AgroBus system where the children from GS1, you begin to learn mechanized farming. You learn how to farm. From year 1, do probably animal husbandry. You get to your first year in secondary school. Your GS2, you get to learn probably fishing, or what they call it.
Some are fishery, right?
Yeah, fisheries. Your 3rd year in secondary school, that's your GS3, you learn something else. And when you leave secondary school, even if you don't want to further, you know that you are good.
You already have capacity to add value.
You're
right?
fine. So why don't we begin to look at all of this and begin to have interactions around these areas, other than saying that people that have spent 5 years in university, for the case of people that are doing law, and you know, in the Nigerian educational system, we have a system where you have to still spend, on the lighter note, you have to still do strike for 1 year. You have to, some schools will have to do result compilation for 1 year. There's a tendency that you didn't even know you had a carryover until you get to,
so you go back.
So you don't have to come back and do a receipt. When you do all of this, if you're doing a course like law, you've added 3 more years to 5 years, and now you're not finished from there. You now have to go to law school. When you finish from law school, that's 9 years. You now come back, all of this, and now sum it up, that's 10 years. You now tell this person, but by the time he got to school, he was, let's say, give or take 20. And this point is leaving the university is already 30. And you know, in the normal tradition in the country, parents would expect you to start introducing your spouse for the male.
Start to settle down.
You need to start talking about how to settle down. Your parents are how far? There's no babe. I need grandchildren. At the age of 33, you begin to think of how to start settling, and by then you're not even settled, because you start scampering for jobs, all of these conversations. So if you now tell this young person to now do extra 2 years, again, because of the skill acquisition program, question again is, the various skill acquisition programs that we've had in this country, what has been the outcome? When you see people learn soap making, bead making, and all of this skill acquisition programs that we have across the country, what has been the outcome? Has it been so robust that we want to go ahead with this? Or can we look for a way to do what other countries are doing, probably the likes of Benin Republic, where they bring foreigners to come train their people on how to do tiles?
Right.
And when they finish doing learning those tiles and fixing and all of this, they take those boys and take them to different countries in Africa, and they begin. Have you not seen Benin boys around fixing tiles? They are one of the best tilers around.
And Nigerians proudly use their services.
And when they finish doing that, they still send this money back to their country.
Capital flights.
You still send whatever where they find themselves. And this has greatly impacted on their economy. The same thing with what, like in the case of India, it's almost similar with what they've adopted. Can we look inward and begin to look at ways to solve all of these challenges, other than some of those things? Because looking at 16,000 doctors leaving the country in a space of 5 years.
It's quite a lot, no doubt about it. Well,
we can go on and on in this conversation.
While we're still dealing with these, on the front page of the Daily Trust today, says that patients stranded. Staff shortage cripples services at FCT Hospital, just like Godwin and I have been talking about the last few minutes. Okay, let's look at the last one, fruits of the front page. Oil price drop to affect roads construction, social intervention, others. All right, that's all we have for you on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. I'm sure our next port of call will be the Daily Sun.
Yeah, the Daily Sun here we have just beside the nameplate. You have Tinubu, Obasanjo, Obi, ACAMB, Mons Business Mogul, Pascal Dozier. That's just it. We have court bars just below the nameplate. You have court bars, Rivers Sole Administrator from appointing LG bosses. Quite interesting conversation there in River State. Well, FG laments, the Star Story says FG laments mass migration of medical doctors abroad, which we just finished. It comes with a rider that says put number of doctors who relocated overseas at 16,000. Still sad. Then we have a story and say mobile on the business side of the Daily Sun. It says mobile money transactions surged to $1.7 trillion. Mobile money transactions surged to $1.7 trillion. That's quite huge. Then we have Vice President Shettima. Vice President Shettima faults Nigerians' resource management. Well, all of those, you can find those read. You can find that read there on that Daily Sun newspaper. Of course, it comes alleged defamation. Natasha slams 5 billion suit against Nwaiboy. Just what we thought we've had it all from Natasha, and of course,
back in court
for another drama. Well, pregnant woman, 5 others killed in Ebonyi, renewed land dispute. Where you can find all of those read on the Daily Sun newspaper. You can go out there and get yourself a copy of the Daily Sun to know what's going on. But it's another. I told you before we started. I said that the numbers have increased and it's going beyond 5 right now, and the numbers keep increasing, and it's sad. The number of death tolls that we've had across the country, where you get from the Uromi. Moved down to Plateau. Right now it's again another one in Ebonyi.
And there was an incident too in Zamfara that we are told also claimed 2 lives.
So all of this, I think the government should begin to look at some of this concern. Of course, people from Benue State have not even come out to air their grievance. Of course, there are silent cases in Benue State
that don't even make it to the news.
Don't make it to the news. Silent ones going on in Benue State. Like we say in the country, we pray and hope that things will get better in the days ahead. All right, this is how far we can go with the newspaper review. On the top of the hour, we were taking you to the news desk for the AM News. Please stay with us as Global Modern continues in a moment.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Dispersing upkeep of 20,000 naira.
Know that you cannot talk about a healthy nation if you don't have means to produce your own in addition to importing.
The CG is the principal actor of this because it's within her jurisdiction. Minister is a supervisor.
That we must run in accordance with the constitution of CAN, where you have just a single time.
The human factor, you have the infrastructural factor, then you have the mechanical factors.
The Senate, with all due respect, they were so hasty in passing that judgment.
The statement I'm about to make is we're not even aware.
That is the future.
You have to be aware before you can begin to be prepared.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Dispersing upkeep of 20,000 naira.
Know that you cannot talk about a healthy nation if you don't have means to produce your own in addition to importing.
The CG is the principal actor of this because it's within her jurisdiction. Minister is a supervisor.
That we must run in accordance with the constitution of CAN, where you have just a single time.
The human factor, you have the infrastructural factor, then you have the mechanical factors.
The Senate, with all due respect, they were so hasty in passing that judgment.
The statement I'm about to make is we're not even aware.
That is the future.
You have to be aware before you can begin to be prepared.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Disbursing upkeep of 20,000 naira.
Know that you cannot talk about a healthy nation if you don't have means to produce your own in addition to importing.
The CG is the principal actor of this because it's within her jurisdiction. Minister is a supervisor.
We must run in accordance with the constitution of CAN, where you have just a single time.
The human factor, you have the infrastructural factor, then you have the mechanical factors.
The Senate, with all due respect, they were so hasty in passing that judgment.
The statement I'm about to make is we're not even aware.
That is the future.
You have to be aware before you can begin to be prepared.
Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world. 2 AM News. on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Godwin Sunday. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and StarTimes channel 276. You can download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcasts. And now to the news in details. Nigeria's Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, says corruption, not the absence of federalism, is the country's major problem. Shettima, who spoke as the keynote speaker at the 17th edition of the Leadership Annual Conference and Award held at the State House Banquet Hall, Abuja, also listed mismanagement of the country's resources as another factor that has retarded the nation's progress over the years. The Vice President faulted those who believe the nation's federalism is not working, insisting that there is no perfect federalism anywhere in the world. The Vaccine Network for Disease Control has called on the federal government and key stakeholders to prioritize sustainable vaccine financing in Nigeria. Speaking at a press conference in Abuja, the organizers praised the federal government's progress in addressing vaccine financing gaps, especially the allocation of over 231 billion in the 2025 national budgets for immunization, malaria vaccination, and vaccine tracking. Queen Agaba has the details.
In commemoration of World Health Day, the Vaccine Network for Disease Control addressed the rapid investment case and economic analysis for immunization in Nigeria. The network warns that with the exit of major donors such as USAID, Nigeria's immunization programs are more vulnerable than ever, warning that recent gains in immunization could be reversed without immediate action. Speaking on the achievements of the network, the CEO, Vaccine Network for Disease Control, Dr. Chika Oluwafemi-Ofo, reveals that while the vaccines have saved millions of lives and are central to the network's development, Nigeria is still one of the world's highest number of zero-dose children.
So vaccine for me is a miracle. And it's the simplest, easiest way to combat disease through prevention. And because of that, I think that it is necessary for the country to prioritize it. Right now, it has been difficult because vaccine is under the service-wide votes, competing with other things. So it becomes difficult. But if vaccines are moved to first-line charge, it means that immediately after budgets, the next thing is for vaccine funds to be released. And immediately they are released, they are used to buy vaccines immediately. So this is where the problem is, because it's in service-wide votes. We're begging the government, appealing to the government to move it to first-line charge, so that it becomes predictive, you can plan for it.
The Vaccine Network for Disease Control therefore called on the federal, state and local government and relevant stakeholders to actively support vaccine financing. The organization emphasizes that a healthy population drives economic growth.
We are not just implementing yet another project. This project is a passion for Vaccine Network because we are advocating for the lives of these children. So we are pleading and urging the government of Nigeria. Yes, we know that funds might not be enough, but we also know that our government is capable because they are absolutely interested in the health sector.
The organization further appealed to the federal government to release all pending allocations for immunization service in the country and ensure timely disbursement and sustainability. For Global Television, Queen Agaba reporting.
The United States-based Institute of Law Research and Development has called on President Bola Tinubu to reverse the suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State, warning that failure to do so could irreparably damage his legacy. The institute said such a decision undermines democratic principles and threatens Nigerians' constitutional integrity. A statement by Professor Cyprian Edward Ekbo, Director of the Institute and Professor of International Environmental and Public International Law, noted that suspension, along with the subsequent declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, could set a dangerous precedent for the country's democracy. Senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, has filed a 5 billion naira suit against a colleague, Senator Onyekachi Nwaebonyi, who represent the Ebonyi North Central Senatorial District over alleged defamation. The suit filed by Akpoti Uduaghan through a lawyer, Michael Numa, at the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Abuja, seeks to declare as false and malicious statement made by Nwa Ebonyi during an interview. According to the suit, Akpoti Uduaghan stated that Nwa Ebonyi described her as a gold digger, habitual liar, and habitual blackmailer during the interview. Borno State Governor Babangana Zulum has lamented the resurgence of Boko Haram in the state, saying the recent renewed attacks are an indication that the government is losing ground. Zulum disclosed this during a special expanded security meeting in the government house, which saw the attendance of general officers commanding 7th Division, Major General Abubakar Aruna, sector commanders, Commissioner of Police, head of security agencies, and traditional rulers. The governor expressed dissatisfaction with the current security situation of the state, while insisting that the renewed Boko Haram attacks and kidnapping in the country and in many communities, almost on a daily basis without confrontation, signals that Borno State is losing ground. Executive Vice Chairman of Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC), Dr. Aminu Maida, has reassured telecom users that the Commission is committed to fostering a fair, transparent, and consumer-centric telecommunications landscape. Dr. Maida, represented by the Executive Commissioner, Stakeholders Management, Remini Makama, spoke at Industry Consultative Forum hosted by the Commission in Abuja. The forum was held to present a regulatory instrument being developed to address the issue of unutilized and unclaimed recharges for airtime and data by telecom consumers. A total of 198,810 residents of the Federal Capital Territory were enrolled in the Federal Capital Territory Health Insurance Scheme (FHIS) in the last 1 year, including 10,065 pregnant women who were registered free. FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, Senior Special Assistant on Public Communications and Social Media, Larry Olayinka, said in a statement that the inception of Wike-led Federal Capital Territory Administration (FCTA), significant increase had been witnessed in the FHIS enrollment, with over 100% of annual enrollment target at 25,000 lives per annum, surpassed by 17% and 44%. The federal government has commenced the national review of the renewable energy curriculum in the country's higher institution of learning. The review of the curriculum is aimed at reshaping how technical education equips future professionals for the clean energy revolution. The Executive Secretary of the National Board for Technical Education, NBTE, Professor Idris Bugaje, disclosed this in Abuja at an event on the overhaul of the National Diploma Program in the renewable energy and the development of 2 new higher national diploma programs, one in solar and the other in solar terminal technologies. The Presidential CNG Initiative, PCNGI, announced its plan to deploy 150 new compressed natural gas CNG refilling stations across the country in the next 18 months. In a press conference held at the Presidential Villa in Abuja, Chief Executive Officer of the initiative, Michael Oluwagbemi, noted that the initiative is committed to making access to CNG refilling easier. Oluwagbemi, referring to the planned deployment of the new 150 new CNG refilling stations, said to further bolster this base infrastructure, we have coopted our private sector partners to deploy over 150 new refilling locations in the next 18 months. The Nigerian Bar Association in Imo State has thrown its weight behind the appointment and swearing in of Honorable Justice Nnamdi Nzeoku as the acting chief judge of the state, describing the process as constitutional, legal, and widely accepted by the legal community. In a joint press statement, chairman of the association in Olu, Mbese, Okigwe, and Mbano Etiti branches congratulated Justice Nzoku on his new role and commended Governor Hope Uzodinma for adhering to Section 271, subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which empowers him to appoint the most senior and qualified judge in an acting capacity.
We also thank the Executive Governor of Imo State for lawfully and carefully performing his constitutional duties under Section 271, Sub 4 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended by appointing Honorable Justice Nzoku, who by records, both statutorily and constitutionally, is the most senior and qualified among the 4 most senior serving judges of Imo State Judiciary for the appointment as the acting chief judge of Imo State.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Nyesom Wike, has met with the suspended members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. Wike hosted the suspended lawmakers for a dinner in the United Kingdom. This followed his earlier meeting with some of his political allies in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. Chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has presided over the Commission's weekly management meeting hours after fake news merchants announced his sack on social media. A viral WhatsApp message had earlier indicated that Professor Mahmood was sacked and replaced with Professor Olamilekan. Minister of Steel Development, Prince Shuaibu Audu, says the government is on the verge of initiating a comprehensive technical and financial audit of the Ajaokuta Steel Complex and other key equipment owned by the company. He stated that the audit process is to allow for private investment from potential suitors as directed by President Bola Tinubu. Audu states that the hint when he received the newly appointed managing director of the Ajaokuta Steel Company Limited, Professor Nasil Nahem Abdusalam, and presented him with his appointment letter following the handover by the former acting sole administrator, Kenwai Joseph, to the new leadership. You are watching the live broadcast of AM News. When AM News returns, Moscow welcomes US-Iran nuclear talks. Details coming shortly, plus business and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us.
Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
In business, the United States Trade Representative criticized Nigerians' import ban on 25 categories of goods, claiming that the restrictions limit market access for American exporters. This came shortly after President Donald Trump introduced tariffs on goods entering the U.S., with Nigeria facing a 14% duty. The United States Trade Representative highlighted the impact of Nigeria's import ban on various sectors, particularly agriculture, pharmaceuticals, beverages, and consumer goods. The Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria has engaged with the Controller General of the Nigerian Customs Service, Adewale Adeniyi, in resolving the impending aviation workers' strike in protest against the conduct of its officers at the Lagos airport. The branch chairman of the Air Transport Services Senior Staff Association of Nigeria at the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, John Ogbe, disclosed this in an interview. Nigeria's economy is placed on the edge over the ravaging impact of the United States of America's President Donald Trump administration tariff, which is wreaking havoc on global stocks and economies. Economists and financial experts have raised an alarm over further economic woes in Nigeria triggered by the shockwaves of the global trade. Specifically, experts warned that the ongoing global trade tension would affect Nigerians' 2025 revenue targets following declining oil prices, stocks, and other exchange rate depreciation. On the foreign scene, United States President Donald Trump is planning to fine immigrants under deportation orders up to $998 a day if they fail to leave the United States and to seize their property if they do not pay. The fine stems from a 1996 law that was enforced for the first time in 2018 during his first term in office. The administration reportedly planned to apply the penalties retroactively for up to 5 years, which could result in fines of more than $1 million, considering seizing the properties of immigrants who do not pay the fines. The United States has described China's retaliation against its tariff, a big mistake, as a global trade war ignited by President Donald Trump's sweeping levies showed few signs of abating, even as global markets steadied after days of carnage. China refused to bow to what it called blackmail after Trump threatened to ratchet up tariff on U.S. imports from the world's #2 economy to more than 100% in response to China's decision to match reciprocal duties, Trump announced last week. China's fast and headline approach contrasted with the more than emollient move by other Asian countries. Still on the foreign scene, Moscow welcomed upcoming nuclear talks between the United States and Iran after Washington and Tehran made the shock announcement that high-level discussions were scheduled for Saturday. U.S. President Donald Trump says the United States is starting direct talks with Iran over its nuclear program during a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And in sports, referees at this year's Club World Cup will be equipped with body cameras and instructed to implement new rules to cut down on time wasting by goalkeepers, FIFA has announced. The use of the camera will be on a trial basis after they were approved last month by IFAB, the sport lawmakers. Chairman of the FIFA Referees Committee, Colina, says the use of the body camera is to offer viewers a new experience in terms of images taken from a perspective from an angle of vision which was never offered before. Bayer Leverkusen forward Victor Boniface missed training due to illness. Boniface is however expected to be available for Saturday Bundesliga clash with Union Berlin, according to the Waskaf Extra. The Nigerian international started their self win at Underdale last weekend. Multiple media outlets says the Toronto Blue Jays and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. have agreed to a 14-year, $500 million contract extension. The deal reportedly includes no deferred money, making it the second most valuable contract in present value in the majors, surpassed only by Juan Soto's 15-year, $765 million deal reached in December. As Global TV AM News comes to an end, let's take a recap of our top stories. Borno State Governor Babangana Zulum has lamented the resurgence of Boko Haram in the state, saying the recent renewed attacks are an indication that the government is losing its grounds. In business, the United States Trade Representative criticized Nigeria import ban on 25th category of goods, claiming that the restriction limits markets access for American exporters. On the forward scene, United States President Donald Trump is planning to fine immigrants under deportation orders up to $998 a day if they fail to leave the United States, and to seize their property if they do not pay. In sports, referees at this year's Club World Cup will be equipped with body cameras and instructed to implement new rules to cut down on time wasting by goalkeepers, FIFA has announced. As Global TV AM News comes to an end, let's take a recap of our major stories. But do remember that you can follow us on all our various social media platforms now showing on your screen using @Global TV NG. You can download the Global TV Nigerian app for Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. I am Godwin Sunday. Thank you for watching.
That Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world.
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Disbursing upkeep of 20,000 naira.
Know that you cannot talk about a healthy nation if you don't have means to produce your own in addition to importing.
The CG is the principal actor of this because it's within her jurisdiction. Minister is a supervisor.
We must run in accordance with the constitution of CAN, where you have just a single time.
The human factor, you have the infrastructural factor, then you have the mechanical factors.
The Senate, with all due respect, they were so hasty in passing that judgment.
The statement I'm about to make is we're not even aware.
That is the future.
You have to be aware before you can begin to be prepared.
know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Dispersing upkeep of 20,000 naira.
Know that you cannot talk about a healthy nation if you don't have means to produce your own in addition to importing.
The CG is the principal actor of this because it's within her jurisdiction. Minister is a supervisor.
We must run in accordance with the constitution of CAN, where you will have just a single time.
The human factor, you have the infrastructural factor, then you have the mechanical factors.
The Senate, with all due respect, they were so hasty in passing that judgment.
The statement I'm about to make is we're not even aware.
That is the future.
You have to be aware before you can begin to be prepared.
Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Dispersing upkeep of 20,000 naira.
Know that you cannot talk about a healthy nation if you don't have means to produce your own in addition to importing.
The CG is the principal actor of this because it's within her jurisdiction. Minister is a supervisor.
That we must run in accordance with the constitution of CAN, where you have just a single time.
The human factor, you have the infrastructural factor, then you have the mechanical factors.
The Senate, with all due respect, they were so hasty in passing that judgment.